I have a question. How do you make the environment in the construction industry more intelligent, either adopting the the technologies you've talked about or otherwise? Because you've talked about risk and uncertainty, you've talked about all the various amazing things that could be done, but how do we make the environment more intelligent?
That's a big question. So one way, I mean, I guess, from my point of view, thinking about the rapid change in AI, this is what I was focused on. I think, in the past, and this is a bit speculative because we're still in the throes of a lot of adoption of generative AI right now. But I think that the two big changes over the past 20 years or so, or the past decade, about 2015, we had deep learning became the thing, which effectively means that you have access to more data. You can do away with a lot of the sort of pre-processing and the formatting that you had to do, because effectively the algorithm can sort that out for itself. So you can work with less processed data if you have more of it. The past couple of years, the past year really, generative AI, we've now got, effectively, we've got the outputs and the inputs being the same as our natural outputs and inputs. On the internet, we typically communicate with each other via text and images. So now we've got AI that are effectively, passing the Turing test, you might say, in the same kind of format that we typically use. So both of these, I think, means that we've now got technology that potentially engages in a way that's much more similar to the way that we naturally engage, requires a lot less processing and standardized formatting to do so, and effectively collaborates in the way that we naturally do. Now, what that means exactly, I don't know. I think it's still too early to say. But I think there's enormous opportunity there. So I ended with this idea of networks. Rather than a standardized central model, you've got networks in which the nodes might be less similar to each other. And we've got the technology now that I think is just beginning potentially to enable that. So that's one possibility anyway.
Yes, I totally agree with Professor Sean's opinion that for making the environment more, built environment more smart, the blockchain cannot directly make that smart. Some AI technologies can be more related to the smart, but what blockchain can play a role in the smart built environment, I think is making the smart environment more safe. So AI has been implemented in many scenarios, cost management or the safety management or extra in construction, but is this AI safe? So that's another question, the opportunities you mentioned we can touch on. So how to make this AI more safe, the AI training process, implementing process to be traced and cannot be changed and can be audited. So that's one way I think we can consider to make the smart built environment more safe. So that's my answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that these new cutting-edge technologies are very important to improve environment, but it's very important found a balance between innovation and preservation environment, and mostly understand when and if these technologies are useful.
Does anyone have any questions for the panel? Questions?
Maybe so hungry and waiting for the dinner. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, in that case, can I have a thought from each of you? What's the thing you would like people to take away and maybe either implement or think of differently in this area?
Actually, I had a question. If we're opening up to questions, if you
have a question.
But I was curious. So, Gabriela, at roughly the middle of your presentation, you introduced the sort of threshold and the ranking
Yes.
of data below or above the threshold, and effectively when it goes above the threshold, that's when you sound an alarm, I think is how you phrase it. But um, I wonder the extent to which that's a principle that applies more generally. So, for instance, in cases where if we've got a situation where we're developing a full BIM model, and then we want that to go all the way through into a digital twin situation. But typically, in previous modes of documentation, you've got phases in which you want to distill and rank the data that you want to pass on. You want to take out things that's either sensitive data, design data that you might not want to pass on, or it just might not be, you don't want to have everything at the same sort of level. So for instance, in a typical design, a manual drawing, back in the day, a big problem that you'd have would be people dimensioning on site off the drawing without looking at the dimensions, right? Because you've got all the data on the drawing, people take the wrong measurement and they build something unintentionally in the wrong place because they weren't looking at the dimension. Now, in a case where you've passed on all of the data, potentially that's even worse, right? Because you've got so much more in your BIM model to pass on. There's so many more opportunities where those same mistakes could happen. So I wonder, A, is it the case that is actually a greater risk? And B, is there a more extensive system of ranking and thresholding that could be used at various stages in the entire life cycle from design all the way through the project that would help you filter out more than just a sort of alarm situation, but actually distill the model down to things that can be prioritized for various purposes?
Yes, and in addition, fix the threshold is essential for the context, because will be unsustainable notarize all data in a blockchain. For this, it's very important to understand which data are relevant or critical in this case, in infrastructure case, and certificate recorded only this data in a blockchain, in the blockchain.
Any other questions from panel? No. So, do you have any final thoughts before we end for today?
That's the final conclusion for the day. I don't think I want to take that responsibility right at the end. I'm running on lots of coffee and about 1 hour's sleep, so maybe it's time just to say thank you and go for dinner.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.